Hello my friends, it's Didi here, and in today's video I'm gonna answer some of your questions. Thank you so much for submitting those. I've divided them in separate groups because there are lots of questions about Mika, about parenting, and then about personal development or diet and style. So let's dive into it. So first let me start with the questions about Mika. How old is Mika? Mika is 5 years, 7 months. He was born in August. What language do you speak to Mika? Do you speak Bulgarian to your son too? A lot of you ask me whether I speak to him my native language. Yes, I'm Bulgarian. My husband is Bulgarian. We both talk to Mika in Bulgarian most of the time, to the point that actually at school they said that they probably want to put him to an English as an additional language group. His Bulgarian is great. I don't know whether that would continue because sometimes now he would come back from school and address me in English. But the only time when I address him in English is when I'm on Insta live stories or when I do a vlog, just because I want to share it with you guys. How and when did you stop with breastfeeding? I did a video about that as well, so I'm gonna link it. You can go and watch it. I stopped breastfeeding when Mika was 27 months old, so 2 years and 3 months. The experience was great for me. I wouldn't replace breastfeeding with anything else. It was so much easier. I mean, it's hard in the beginning, but then it gets so much easier. You don't have to think about bottles and milk. Traveling is so much easier. And then also I always wanted to breastfeed, so one of the reasons how I even chose to live the life that I live now in terms of moving out of corporate and building my own businesses was because I was so sure I wanted to breastfeed Mika for as long as I can. And if you have to go back to work at when your baby is 3 months old, it's much harder. The reason why I stopped, I could have continued more. The reason why I stopped was that Mika got a little bit obsessed with the breastfeeding, so I ended up, for the last 6 months of the 27 months, I ended up breastfeeding 4 or 5 times a day. Lots of moms, when their toddlers are already 2 years old, they'll only breastfeed only in the afternoon or just before bedtime. But in my case, for some reason, he got obsessed. So I had to breastfeed him every time when I saw him. And literally it became so hard for me, and I thought that that's the time when I have to stop. And maybe, I was thinking about him as well. I've loved it, and I recommend to everyone to breastfeed regardless of what people around you think about it, because so many people would come and say, oh, he's old enough now, you shouldn't be breastfeeding. No, I completely disagree. You breastfeed for as long as you feel comfortable with, and if you can go past the first year and the second year, that's great too. And if you can't, again, that's partly a choice, partly it happens to some parents, to some mothers, they cannot have the breast milk that they want to. Go and watch the video, I think I talk more about this. Please tell more about Mika's diet. A lot of you are interested what's typical breakfast, lunch, dinner. Mika's diet is varied. It's been priority for me since, as I said, breastfeeding was so important, but also how I introduced him to solid foods. For so many of you who have been following for a while would know that I created a baby feeding product as well, which was how to introduce solids in the baby-led weaning way. And Mika was gluten-free and sugar-free until he was 3 years old. Just before he turned 3, he tried bread for the first time. Now at home we are gluten-free and sugar-free. Sugar-free, I mean, I'm saying it like that just because he would have lots of, let's say, almonds with dates, and dates are still rich in sugar, but he definitely is not into refined sugar. That said though, when he's outside of the house, when he goes to birthday parties or when he goes for play dates, I do not limit his diet, though he can have whatever they serve there. And I'm sure that at school for lunch they don't really limit their sugar intake as well. I let go of that. It was a very hard decision for me because, as I said, food was priority, and I wanted to raise him in a healthy environment in terms of food. I wanted him to try all sorts of varieties and colors. I delayed the whole pasta thing and pizza thing and bread thing just because I didn't want him to get into a bland food. But at the same time, when he started school last year and there was this offer for lunch, I said, that's it, I'm just gonna let him eat it. A lot of my friends used to comment before when he was little that I'm limiting him and that, oh, poor child, poor Mika, he hasn't had ice cream yet, he hasn't had cakes, how can I do that? I must say that I've never actually said no to him to any foods, because I knew that if I say no and keep saying no for food, he would be attracted to this food much. So I created so-called favorable environment so that I don't have to say no and he doesn't have to see these things. So no, in fact, it was not hard at all. If you're careful with the environment and if you are very careful, as I am careful for building habits and patterns, then it's not as hard, I promise you. And of course now he wants ice cream every now and then when we are out. Until last year he thought that ice cream is sorbet, because that's the ice cream I used to give him. But apart from that, he's gluten-free at home because we don't buy bread, but outside of the house he eats everything. And also, he likes sweet things, so he eats lots of healthy sweets, but still sweets. Can I put an updated life routine of Mika and night routine as well? I love your way of parenting and I would love to know more about teaching Montessori. I had few actually requests for night routine and morning routine. The reason why I'm not doing it is that I don't find it that interesting myself, but you know, I probably do it just because our mornings are in hurry now. He needs to be prepared for school. My mornings actually are not as intense as the evenings because now I prepare everything from the night before. So all his clothes, the book bag, the violin, whatever he needs for school is prepared the night before. And also I also teach him to remember these things. So I ask him what day of the week is, what do you have today? So I don't want to be the one to remember all the time. So it's really great if you can bring your child into their own routine so that they know what they have to carry every day in their bag. I would do that though. I mean, it's actually, I really love watching my toddler's routine, morning routine and evening routine. And my friend Mimi at the time, she told me it's a good idea for you to do it. And I was thinking, who's gonna be interested in it? But now when I watch it, I'm like, oh, it's so good to see the past and it's so good to see things that you've taken, and he loves seeing it as well, so it's great. Do you have help with Mika? I do have some help, but it's not a regular help. So I am still the main carer of Mika. And again, I build my life in such a way that I'm able, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that. His dad travels a lot. Most of the time he's on business trips, but when he's here. So he does the school run in the mornings or in the evenings. But most of the times it's only me. I'm looking for bringing some help, specifically on the cooking side, because it takes lots of my time and energy. But it's me, and sometimes I bring my mom and I bring my dad, and they come depending on holidays, and they help us with, even babysitting because we don't have many nights out. How many siblings do you have? I have one sibling. It's my sister. She is 15 months older than me, and she lives in London, which is great. She lives literally 15 minutes from where we live, and her child is 9 months younger than Mika. His name is Martin, so it's great to have siblings and it's great to have cousins around. And when my mom comes, of course, she's happier because both of us are in the same place. Does Mika watch TV? No, we don't have TV. He doesn't watch TV, and by TV, even if you mean YouTube, very rarely he would watch something. The thing is, he's so much into, I cannot show you guys, but if you've seen my Insta story, you will know, he is obsessed with Lego. That started last year in July, so it's been almost 10 months now. And I don't have to do much, honestly, because he's so much involved and concentrated in the Lego that I don't have to say no often. The only time when he watches something is when I have calls in the evenings. I try not to do that, but if I'm alone and I have calls, I say, I have a call, you can watch for 40 minutes. And then Saturday and Sunday is usually then when you promise him he can watch something, but then we have such a busy weekend. Usually we go out on birthday parties or in the park that he forgets and we never remind him. So I would say he has probably 1 hour TV time, screen time. Sometimes he takes my phone, but all he does on my phone is going to Amazon and checking Lego. Okay, so this is with Mika. What are some podcasts that I'm listening to? Right, so I used to be a podcast addict. I used to listen to podcasts all the time. That said, I didn't listen to that many podcasts. I would listen to Tim Ferriss for years. Since he actually started, I've been listening to his podcast, and then James Altucher on and off. These are my two favorite. And then I have lots of friends with podcasts, and I support them and I listen to them, and depending on, there are a few episodes that I'm always interested in, but one of them is Jason Gaignard from the Community Made. Then my friends Mimi and Alex just came out with a podcast called The Icons, and then my friend Jess Lively, I used to listen to her podcast a lot. That said, recently for the past, I think 3-4 months, another one is How I Build This. And occasionally I would listen to Unruffled, I think. It's a parenting expert, Janet is her name. So I like this one, specifically when I'm looking for some special advice. I used to listen to a lot because I walk, and I walk to school, then I walk to my school, then I walk in the park. And that's the best way to use the time in my understanding and my belief, and I love it and enjoy it. However, now I switched more to audiobooks. Before was 50-50, now I'm literally the past 3, 4, 6 months, I only listen to audiobooks. I'm gonna link below the podcast that I'm listening to. What books are you reading right now? That was a question, but then I had what books can I recommend on Audible, and then what parenting books I can recommend, and do you read fiction too? So I'm sort of combining these questions. The books that I'm reading right now, literally right now, meaning the past 2 months, are The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz. Most of you who follow me know that I'm a huge fan of his work, and the previous one was The Fourth Agreement. And then it's The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And what I do is I have these books, and I can show you guys. They're all look, underlined. because I don't really read them, I study them. These books you cannot just read and go. What I do is I read them, and at the same time I listen to them. So currently, for the past 3-4 weeks, I've been reading and listening all the time The Fifth Agreement. And then Michael Singer came out with a new audiobook called The Untethered Soul at Work. So I really recommend it for everyone who is working for someone or who is leading a team. And it's a great book. It's just 2 hours and 17 minutes. It's very short. It's more like a lecture he's giving, and it's brilliant. And yeah, what I do is I love underlying things and then taking notes, but at the same time I love reading, listening to those, especially the one at work. It's with his voice, because then I can listen to that before I go to sleep, or I can listen to it when I walk on the road. I'm going to show you my Audible. You can just see the other 3-4 books that I'm listening to, but usually I prefer to read, and when I listen, I prefer to listen to books that are with the original voice of the author. So I really like Wayne Dyer, I really like Ruiz and most of her books, and also Vortex with the Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. So I'm going to show you a screenshot. I forgot, in terms of parenting books, I've read lots of parenting books. I'm going to do a separate video with the list because that's been a request for quite some time now. And one of the books that really changed the way I looked at parenting, and I read it when Mika was a baby, was The Conscious Parent by Dr. Shefali Tsabari. And then the other one is The Whole-Brained Child. So these are the two that I sort of really like. But also for me, a lot of the parenting books are full of strategies, the things to do with your child if they are misbehaving, in the common understanding of that. I feel that most of the books that I'm reading, which are about personal development, about how you see the world, about what we, like for example, the Fifth Agreement, it's about how we are all dreaming all the time, and what's the dream that you create, and how, whether you consciously or unconsciously dream, you are dreaming, so you would rather be conscious about it. I feel that all these books are books for parents, because then by doing the work on yourself, you are role modeling what you would like to role model for your children. And quite often the conscious parenting, it's great because it was a reminder that you are not raising a mini me. You know, we always have this belief that children are coming for us. They're not. They're coming through us, but they're here, and we are here to support their own spirit. So this is one book that I definitely recommend everyone to check. Right, I love your cooking videos. When are you making more? I don't know. I don't think I'll make more now, because every time when I have a new recipe and I try something new that it's worthwhile, I make a video about it. So if I haven't made a video about it, it means that I'm still cooking the same stuff. I have lots of videos. As I said, it was priority for a while. Then most of my recipes are dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, paleo, which I was following this diet for quite some time. So just go and watch them in the channel. There are still the things that I'm cooking, believe it or not, 4 years later. Do you work out regularly and make time for your fitness? Unfortunately, I don't. I accepted that this is a phase in my life, and I just cannot seems to find the time, or probably I'm not prioritizing it, because I think that saying I don't have time, it's a lame excuse. You can always find time for things that you want to do. It's just, it hasn't been happening for the past year. I tried a few times to be more regular with my running. I really love going to yoga, but it just doesn't work out because I don't have the routine. Meet could travel so often that even if I like a class that I want to visit very early morning at 7 o'clock, I cannot keep going. I have to take Mika to school. You know, I'm the one who picking him up. The only thing that I do for fitness, and it's not that conscious, is that I walk a lot. I do at least 10,000 steps a day. Again, I don't really set it as an aim or look into it, but it just happens because I really love walking, and I walk everywhere, and Mika walks everywhere with us. How would you define your parenting style? So I guess by this question you mean there are different styles, like helicopter style, permissive style, conscious parenting style. I would consider myself as a conscious parent who really takes deeply the idea of respect. I have huge respect for the spirit of Mika, and huge respect for his own soul and desire to grow. And for me, I'm trying to be very conscious not to impose on him all these models of parenting that have been imposed on me by my parents. You know, they were doing their best, but there are lots of things that I now, by looking at the way that I've been raised, I disagree with. So I'm very, very conscious with that. And I compare it now a lot with Montessori, since I studied in depth the Montessori philosophy. She actually talks a lot about these things. So for me, I'm probably Montessori parent. I let him be who he is. I really support his independence. I really listen to him a lot. I try to be very present when I'm with Mika, and at the same time I am very careful not to project my own stuff on him. Quite often is a great thing, but sometimes I really need to stop and think about it. It seems you're eating healthy. What is your diet like? I eat whole foods. I'm not as healthy as I wish I am. There are still lots of sweets that I eat. Again, the healthy sugars, lots of dark chocolate and stuff, but far too much than what I should have been having. I'm gluten-free. I used to be for years gluten-free when I was pregnant and when I had Mika. But then for the past 3 years, it was very hard to follow the gluten-free diet. Now I'm back to it since Christmas, so it's been 4 months. Very rarely I would have something, and I'm very happy that way. There are people who can live with in the balanced way, so they're not going to extremes. I'm an extreme person. Much easier for me if I cut a category of food not to have it, and it's really easy. I'm dairy free, not exactly, because I eat cheese and I eat, but not much. I don't like it, but I consume kefir and yogurt, and that's actually something which Mika has as well. He has never tried milk, but he consumes lots of kefir and yogurt. And again, I've been paleo. I did a video about my diet somewhere, so I'm just gonna make sure I link it, guys. Next question is, can you talk more about fasting? A few of you asked me about fasting, and I guess that's because of the stories that I posted. People mean different things by fasting, but usually fast means that you are on a very low calorie diet. In my case, fasting is I'm either on a water fast, which means not consuming anything but water for a few days, or I tried this year for the first time something called dry fast. So in dry fast, you don't consume even water, and I did it for 42 hours, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I am a great believer in fasting. I've done it so many times since I was 23, 4, 5 years old. Actually, I used to do fasting or going only on a very low calories diet every time when I had a new challenge. Let's say if I'm changing a job or starting a new career or anything that I know it's stressful, I just remove the whole element of thinking about food, and then it really helps you to keeping your stress level high. So I'm not new to that. If you're very new to fasting, please do your research. Now there is so much more research, actually, a real research that comes in support of how good fasting is for the immune system, for heart disease, for cancer. It's something which you can easily incorporate, but at the same time that would depend on your level of health at this particular moment. Again, in my case, I do water fast, then I switch to veggies and fruit fasts. So this year, the last one I did was no water, nothing for 43 hours, I think I did. Then I did water for 2 days, and then I incorporated fresh fruits, and then I incorporate fresh veggies, and then I incorporate nuts, and that's how you go back to eating. When you do fasting, it's really important not to start eating very quickly after let's say 7 days of a fast. You have to be very careful of how you go back to eating. And Mitko, he also, my husband, he also does fasting, and he actually did the last few years, he's been doing 30 days each summer. So it's not as hard as we think it is. It takes some practice. I personally want to move to 1 day fast a week. I would like every week on Monday just to consume water, but it hasn't happened so far. So I'm just giving myself the time to feel when the right time would be for me. And also what I do is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, usually they say it's 16 hours, but I feel it's 16 hours for men. For women, it's more like 14 hours. I do 12 to 14 hours windows of time when I don't eat. For those of you who want to read the research and books about that, the book that I really liked recently is called The Longevity Diet, and I'm gonna link it below. I have it on Kindle. And then you can, of course, get Mark Hyman and Day Fast Free, the Bulletproof as well. It's something which I've been reading, and they explain all these things in details. But yeah, I love it. I love it, and it's always been working pretty well for me, for my family, for my mom, Mitko as well, so I have pretty good experience with it. Can you do video on your routine? I think my routine is so boring, guys, you're gonna fall asleep. My routine is like, I just put Mika to sleep in the evening and I work until 12 o'clock. It's, you know, I don't even read, some of you ask me whether I read fiction books. I don't read fiction books anymore. I used to read a lot of books which were, you know, fiction. Now it's all about psychology, parenting, personal development, and I literally, spiritual literature. I really consume lots of information, but no fiction. That said, it's hard for me nowadays to even watch a movie because it's more like fiction. It takes you out of reality, and I sort of like building my reality. And I find it hard to even find a movie that I would like. The last time when I watched a movie was on my flight. I went to Miami recently, and it was hard to choose, it was hard to watch it, it's just I lost interest. So I accept I'm in a phase when reading books and studying books is my favorite thing and brings me more joy than anything else. So yeah, I don't know what routine would be, so probably I won't do it. Can you do a video about the journey of creating a school? This one, I guess the question is more about the why rather than how you get into creating a school. I can do video about that. I can talk about the why and why creating a school is so important to me and how actually education is so important to me. And yeah, I'll do a video about that. When are you going back to posting videos weekly? I don't know. I really wish I would do it. And by saying I wish, then I am doing it. It's just, again, it's a phase. I've been very busy with making sure that the school has very, very strong foundations, and then also working on other projects to support me being able to give so much to the school. And although I so much love creating content, it's just I didn't have the time to do that, at least until I have help. That's it, I think. Was there something? Yeah, this question. What was the most impactful event in your life for the past year? I have events in the past year that I can say that they were impactful. And there are a few that are specifically more impactful than others. But I think it's not the event itself, but the preparation to the event. So I've been, for those of you that follow me, you know that I've been doing lots of personal work as well, growth work. And one of the things that I'm working on constantly is, in a way, bringing more of me and my emotions and being more feeling rather than thinking all the time. I'm very left brain person, logical person. Everything that I do needs to go through my reasoning and I assess it through intellectualizing it. And I'm trying now to tap into my emotions more and to be more feeling. And that's definitely a journey for me that for some people it can be very easy. For me, it's not. Again, when people say to me, what do you feel? I'm like, I think. So it's not think, feel. And there are a few events last year that sort of opened me up to see that, wow, you know, when you stop thinking and switch off your mind, actually a whole new world opens up in front of you. And this is my current work right now. That's it from me, my friends. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for posting these questions and for watching my channel. It's been a journey for about 3 years now, I think, and I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate you still sticking with me, and also I'm always accessible via Instagram. Just DM me or also in the YouTube comments. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll see you next week. International knife, and our traditional dish is banisa, and our flag. So your